Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the developer diary for War of Conquest. The first one being quite a while ago, which was mainly a preview for House Targaryen. Now some considerable work has been done since then, and I'd like to show you guys as much of it as I can, even though I am limited to certain factions that I don't have the skins for yet that are currently being worked on by my little helpers and my team. But we will show you as much of it as we can. Let's start with House Targaryen, shall we? Which is pretty much done from a campaign map point of view, apart from some strat model tweaks, possible editing, and all kinds of different stuff that might be changed down the line, so nothing's final that you see. Absolutely everything's subject to change. But this is the gist of it. Now the campaign starts off with Aegon Targaryen already in Westeros. He's landed at Aegon's Hill. His sisters took Rosberry, Duskendale. Well, his sisters took Stokesworth, which is a little castle somewhere around Aegon's Hill. Lord Stokesworth is currently in Aegon's Hill, keeping it garrisoned. He's not the best of commanders. He bent the knee relatively easily, without any bloodshed whatsoever. Now, we also took Rosberry. I need the Rosberry General here when I get around to doing that. Rosberry also bent the knee without any problems. Antlers is just a fortification. That's probably going to be another wooden castle rather than a big stone one. Duskendale and Maidenpool, on the other hand, both put up a considerable fight, but were easily crushed. Now, Darklyn already has his little traits, especially with the House Darklyn bloodline and everything. And John Mooton is something I just threw in a minute ago. He hasn't been done yet, but he will be in the future. So yeah, the Targaryens control all of the Crown Lands, or what will be known as the Crown Lands, apart from Rook's Rest here, which is still a Storm King settlement. Aegon hasn't bothered to go get it yet. It's of no threat to us. So currently, Aegon has turned his attention to the Ironborn, in which case he has gone to lay siege to Harrenhal itself and burn it to the ground. Now, at this point, it isn't implemented in the game just yet, but once Harrenhal falls, or after a set number of turns, whatever seems most appropriate, I want an army of Tullys and Riverlord Bannermen to spawn somewhere around here, outside of Harrenhal. Basically, right about here, they'll spawn half a stack of Targaryen troops, but they'll be under the command of the Lord Tully at the time, who led the rebel Riverlords in rebellion against Harron when Aegon laid siege to Harrenhal. So yeah, that'll be an interesting little script when we get around to doing it. Now, meanwhile, Aegon's oldest sister right here is waiting to take ship from Duskendale, Dragonport and everything, with the Master of Ships, Demon Valerian. And they're going to sail over to the Vale and attack House Arryn. Now, Aegon's youngest sister is joining up with Orys Baratheon, Aegon's most trusted general, best friend, and possible bastard brother. And he's moving on Storm's End. He's been tasked with dealing with the Storm King, who has considerable forces along the border, who has pretty much rallied his men out of Storm's End to come and take him out. So yeah, with one army dealing with the Storm Kings, one army going towards House Arryn, and Aegon himself in the Riverlands dealing with the Ironborn, it's going to be quite considerably difficult to beat the Targaryens. They are going to be formidable foes. As for Aegon himself, I just double clicked on him. As for Aegon himself, he has Balerion the Dread, his personal dragon, which gives him plus 10 command, 20 hit points, and 50 troop morale. So making the Targaryens rout when they have a dragon leading them is probably not going to happen. Of course, this is all subject to playtesting, and we'll try and balance it out as much as we can. But yeah, that is all for House Targaryen, really. You got Orys Baratheon tasked with taking Storm's End. Sarah's here. You could either even go into the Reach if you liked, or maybe have a Field of Fire, or go into the Vale, up to you. And Aegon Targaryen is probably best to take out Harrenhal and wipe out the King Harren straight away. So, Targaryen's over. Let's move on. House Hoare, whose current status is quite considerable among the Seven Kingdoms. They control not only the Iron Islands, but all of the Riverlands, which is a grand accomplishment accomplished by Harren's grandfather, I believe. Harren the Black has recently finished the construction of Harrenhal, which has taken many centuries, many slave workers, cutting down many weirwoods, and pretty much working the Riverlands to the bone and ripping the land dry of many resources. Hence the fact that the Hoars will start in a considerable amount of debt, thanks to King Harren's obsessive endeavour to build the biggest and most powerful castle that is completely undefeatable in all of Westeros. Unfortunately, he didn't count on King Aegon and his dragons. But yeah, the placement of the Ironborn is currently debatable. We might move it around at some point because they'll need more defensive forces at Seaguard and Greenfork. Not to mention Riverrun. But currently, the oldest of Harren's sons is around here outside of Golden Tooth. His youngest of sons is at Oakmoat, along with Blacktide and the rest of the Greyjoy bannermen. But yeah, there isn't really too much else to show for Hoare because it's still in work in progress. And Uri is still working on the portraits and some more custom traits and possibly adding some area of recruitment units and stuff. Because that's one of the main goals that we've got. We really want to add your own unique faction for unit for each faction. So Pike Reavers, or just adding, or Dragonstone Royal Guard, or Aegon's Royal Guard. We want each faction to have their own unique, awesome unit for this submod, rather than just reusing all of the Riverdin Hills units. But we'll get around to changing all that as we go. You'll notice the loyalty of the Riverland generals is all considerably low. This is because they all despise Hoare. They despise the Ironborn with every shred of their fucking being. This guy is Tully, although his name doesn't appear yet because I have to do that in the name files. But there's a trait here, Loathes King Harren. We have one that is a level lower as well, called Hates King Harren or something. But this gives all the Riverland bannermen decreased loyalty due to the tyrannic rule of the Ironborn, which later will cause them to rebel and join the Targaryen faction. No doubt I'll make a script that simulates the rebellion, possibly later on. All these towns right now are in high public order, but when we start the game off, I want the Hoars to be considerably worried about the Riverlords rebelling. Not every single faction and every single place is going to be really happy and loyalty happy. It's going to be fucking some of them on the brink of rebellion, kind of threatening to cut off from you and join the Targaryens kind of thing. So that should be quite interesting. Anyway, let's move into the north, as unfortunately the rest of the south isn't really done yet, because well, some of the south is done. Arryn, Lannister and Gardner are pretty much finished, but unfortunately I don't have the files for those and they're still being tweaked, so yeah. We'll move into the north and find out what Stark is doing. House Stark starts off at relative peace, with King Torrhen Stark leading the northern forces at Winterfell, currently holding a name day celebration for his son Prince Jon. He's called some minor lords and nobles into the court and to join in the celebration, and has taken this opportunity to call a small council, discussing the new king in the south, the Ironborn threat along the neck, and the possible concerns about the current actions of House Bolton. They're less than trustworthy allies, as it were. King Torrhen's a relatively just leader. He often puts the needs of his men and his people first over his own desires. As you'll notice, they have the Stark standard. I'd like to give all of the family members, the major family members for all the factions, banners, which gives them +1 troop morale, just to add a little extra for it. Torrhen Stark has his own, Torrhen Stark has ruled the North as King of the North since the passing of his father. He's gained a reputation as strong and noble leader with a desire for peace, often putting the needs of his people ahead of his own. Over the years of his rule, the Ironborn and the Northmen have been fighting in an endless skirmish around the neck. As such, the majority of the Northern military is stationed at Moat Cailin. Moat Cailin is currently got a half a stack, led by the Master of Arms at Winterfell, and the Lord of Moat Cailin, who's a man tasked with defending of the neck, Rickard Cassel. Also, you've got another important defender against the Ironborn, who in recent years have clashed with them considerably, Jojen Flint of Flint's Finger. Currently despises House Hoare. He's a important general against the invasions from the south, both from the Iron Islands and the Riverlands. So there's going to be a lot of fighting around here, and most of the northern military is focused around this point. Who we've got outside of Winterfell is Prince John himself, who's the person getting celebrated for his 18th name day. And you've got Cregan Karstark, Brandon Snow, who is Torrhen Stark's bastard brother. If you scroll down for a second, where's his trait? There it is. Brandon Snow. Brandon is the bastard brother of King Torrhen. He has gained a reputation less honourable than his brother, often resorting to methods his king feels to be distasteful. Brandon is also known for his network of spies in the north, something that has aided his brother Torrhen more than he likes to admit. So you've got Brandon Snow, who's slightly less honourable than his older brother, and tends to get in a bit of a trouble, but he's been quite useful over his reign. He's a decent commander and relatively loyal. And you've got Karstark as well, who's recently married the, one of these, I think Torrhen's sister, I think. And Karstark doesn't have anything special yet, apart from the member of House Karstark trait. And his son is Cregan Karstark. You've also got Jorah Umber, who's attended the court as well. And you've got Lyanna Bolton, who is at Winterfell currently, as a guest in our halls. We'll explain why later. That's about it for House Stark, really. We can cover the rest of their story in the House Bolton segment. I'll just go over all of the generals, and so you can see all the custom portraits. Now, every single faction is going to have portraits for all of their generals. I've made that abundantly clear. I want it to look nice, so we want portraits for all of our generals, no matter what. But okay, we will swing over here and see what Bolton's doing. Maybe see why his daughter is at Winterfell. House Bolton. Currently on the brink of war with House Stark. Although currently in a fragile alliance that may soon change. For better or worse, at least. Now, if you look at Roderick here, I'm going to give him a trait that sort of lowers his movement points because he is very old and greatly fears his son. So if we go over Roderick Bolton. Roderick Bolton has lived a hard life with the recent death of his two oldest sons at the hands of the youngest. What is a father to do when one son kills another? Since then, Roderick's only living son, Kyle Bolton, has been rallying support against House Stark for the alleged kidnap of Lyanna Bolton, among other things. So, Roderick is no longer in control of his own bannermen. His son has killed his other brothers, skinned them alive, and pretty much rallied his father's banners, claiming that his sister has been stolen from him. Meanwhile, Kyle and Jorah Flint, who has been sent by his father from Widow's Watch to join up with Kyle. He plans to head to White Harbour and lay siege to it. Deal with the fat Mandry lords. After the brutal murder of his brothers, Kyle skinned the bodies and kept the skins as a reminder to his enemies and friends that his blade is sharper than his father's. Shortly afterwards, he attempted to rape his sister, causing her to flee to the Dreadfort and seek shelter at Winterfell. Kyle is now claiming the young Prince Jon Stark has kidnapped his sister and stolen her honor. But yeah, Bolton is on the brink of war. While vastly outnumbered, if they strike hard and fast while the Stark bannermen are away, there's not really too much that they can do. If we look at his for a second, you may be thinking to yourself, there's no way Bolton will be able to actually take out Stark. They only control 2 settlements. Well, currently, all of the Umbers and all of the Karstarks are completely away. Both of their castles left with only militia guarding the walls. So Carhold and Last Turf, both prime targets. Ramsgate, weakly defended, although his lord is currently out there. White Harbour does have Mandry there, but I may move him to Winterfell at some point as well. Makes sense that he'd be called to court also. So White Harbour's also vulnerable, Ramsgate's vulnerable, so's Carhold and Last Hearth. If Bolton moves with speed, then that might give them the edge. But of course, it's going to take Roderick a little bit longer to get to Carhold and Last Hearth, because I'm going to give him diminished movement points. This will represent the fact that he's old, and also the fact that he's not entirely happy with his war. He's going to do and join Carl Bolton in his war because he's his only son that he has left. His wife is dead, and Carl is the only hope for House Bolton. Once he dies, and he won't last much longer, the Lordship of the Dreadfort will turn to him, because he's the only son that he has left and the only chance, but he's very reluctant to do so. He's quite scared of his son, actually. So I kind of think representing that with sort of limited movement points, so he only moves a little bit then camps, kind of thing. So it takes him a while to get to his destination. It's not too long, obviously, but he won't move as fast as Kyle with his determination to fuck up Stark with everything he's got. That is pretty much all for now, guys. There's not much else that I can show you. You've got the Boltons and the Starks at each other's throats in the north. Of course, it's very much up to the player if they decide to actually go to war with Stark. You do start off as a dodgy alliance with them. You can always, of course, fulfill the storyline if you want, and marry Lyanna Bolton to Prince John, who actually has a trait saying that pretty much they fell in love with each other. I took this story basis on the Lyanna and Rhaegar Targaryen theory, with the fact that Lyanna actually loved Rhaegar and she went with him willingly during Robert's Rebellion. I took that from the thing. Instead of Stark and Targaryen, we've got Stark and Bolton, with Lyanna Bolton falling in love with Prince John. Her father's fine with it, but her brother's using it as an excuse, saying that he's kidnapped her and stolen her honor, and he's rallied his father's banners, who no longer care about his father, kind of thing. They think he's weak and pathetic, and how could he allow his only son to kill his other sons, kind of thing, and let him get away with it. After he pretty much refused to have the boy publicly executed for his crimes, kind of thing, and name him Kingslayer, he refused to do it because it's his only son left. The only other child that he has is Lyanna, and she's run off to Winterfell and probably hates her father's guts. So there's not really too much hope for the Bolton line unless Kyle's plan works. If they fail, it might not be too good. So yeah, guys, that's all for now. There's not really much else that I can show you, considering the fact that, well, I don't have any of the other edited files, really. But, yeah. Some distant news, which will be in the next developer diary, pretty much. Lannister is pretty much done, as well as Gardener being pretty much done. Arryn is pretty much done as well. There's a small tweaking to be done with this, and I haven't got the files yet. So we've really got Yronwood, Martell, and the Storm Kings to do, and that's the main focus of it. And then the campaign will be playable. Whether or not we get around to releasing a alpha public beta kind of build for you guys to play with, even when it's not finished, is debatable. It's whether or not I want you guys to have an unfinished project, or whether or not I want to complete it and then release it when it's completely finished. There's still a lot of work to do, really. Skins and strat models. Like I said, we want to figure out how to do special custom units and area recruitment units for all of the factions, which pretty much all of them have them. It's just a case of getting another area of recruitment unit for Hoare at Harrenhal and one for Targaryen at Dragonstone. The others already have their own special units. New skins for the Targaryens. That's a fucking big deal. And there's a bunch of other stuff as well. There is a lot of work. We're getting there. I'd say it's like, yeah, I'd say like fucking 35% done. Really, half the work is just doing the factions. Text file editing, changing the name of characters, getting portraits, making up your own backstory and stuff that links with the rest of Westeros and what's going on. Placement of the units, which in places that make sense, like Carl Bolton moving on White Harbour pretty soon. We also have to change all the quotes, because some of them are completely outdated for War of Conquest. So guys, I hope you're looking forward to playing this as much as I am when I actually can. I can't wait for playtesting when it gets to the point where we can playtest it. I'll probably invite a few people to playtest it with us, actually, when we get to that point. But yeah, sadly there's not too much else I can show you until I get the Lannister, Gardener, Arryn, and Yronwood files. But that is all for now, so I will see you in the next video that I do. That's all for now. Soul out.